Hey everybody, welcome to the Dork Squad. I'm here with my friends to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe predictions for 2022 and beyond. So, wrapping up in 2021, we had Shang-Chi, we had the Eternals, and we had Spider-Man No Way Home, not to mention all the Disney Plus series like WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, as well as Hawkeye. So we had a big year for Marvel last year for the MCU.
They made up for 2020.
They really did.
With just a whole lot of content for 2021.
Am I a jerk that I forgot Black Widow? I realized I didn't say Black Widow.
It's okay. Kevin Feige did too.
Who here among us can safely say that we actually remembered that Black Widow exists? The movie, anyway.
I remember seeing it in theaters myself, but then afterwards, it just kind of like left my mind until you guys reminded me. I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember seeing that. So
we saw that literally 2 days before my second daughter was born. We knew that Jess was going to be due any day, any hour. And the day it was coming out came by, and I called our mom like, "Hey, do you wanna watch Lucy? No contractions yet. Maybe we can catch this movie." We did, and then 2 days later, we went into labor.
The thing about Dave is that he has his priorities straight. He absolutely has his priorities straight.
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
because we could still see them. Because no lie, when Lily was born, we just seen Black Widow 2 days earlier. Lucy was born the day before Captain Marvel came out. So both my daughters were born right around the dates of release for female Marvel superhero movies.
Oh,
coincidence?
Okay. Oh,
I think not.
Yeah, I was just thinking there's some kind of cosmic coincidence there. Or maybe not.
Maybe it's just an indication that they'll grow up to be powerful women.
I think that's the implication. A lot of new characters, a lot of old returning characters. Let's go through some of the big revelations. So, starting off with the Eternals, got mixed reviews. We did a podcast on it, but some of the big stuff came in just in the end credits with the reveal of Star Fox and Pip the Troll. Are we going to see them cross paths with the Guardians of the Galaxy? What do you think?
Personally, I think yes. I think there's a very strong possibility of that, as James Gunn is still continuing the cosmic side of storytelling, especially since Adam Warlock is going to be the main villain in Guardians 3. That's fairly established. The role's already been cast, so I could definitely see Star Fox, Star Fox, Pip the Troll, a lot as maybe even some of the Eternals also crossing paths as well. It is possible. I mean, we might also just see just another hero emerge, just completely out of nowhere too. I mean, there's hundreds of different cosmic characters. I mean, heck, even at one point he wanted Rom Space Knight to actually be in the Guardians series, but due to Rom being owned by Hasbro, he wasn't able to do that. But yeah, you never know. He might be able to pull some kind of magic. So I'm going to say yes.
I mean, if the Eternals are going to cross over with anyone, that at least based on that end credits scene in the Eternals, that makes the most logical sense.
And it's interesting because James Gunn wrote Guardians of the Galaxy 3 years ago, so it'd be interesting to see if he incorporates them. And he's never James Gunn's been one of those guys that they let him do with what he wants, which is smart. And honestly, getting fired from Guardians, what was that, 3 or 4 years ago now, probably was one of the best things that ever happened to him because...
it was the best thing to happen for people who are also DC fans.
Yeah. Yes. now you really get the best of both worlds. And, you think, would that have happened if he hadn't initially been fired? I mean, that's a huge, huge thing for him.
The fact that he's able to cross over, do the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, which if you're not watching, watch it because it's amazing, and then go back to Marvel. Who else can say that they've done that?
I think Zachary Levi. He was He was Shazam and Thor's friend.
But I mean, he's done with that, and then he went over to Shazam.
Yeah, I know.
He's not going back to more. I'm saying he went from one to the other back. Like, you don't really see that.
It was a joke.
Yeah.
And speaking of jokes, Eternals. Now you want to interact with other Marvel people? Now you want to get involved with stuff?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little late, but okay.
We should do something. Should we do something?
Yeah, so
to quote Linkara from atop the fourth wall for the monitors, I'm like, yeah, that's basically the Eternals in that film.
So
the Eternals are like the Ents in Two Towers when they're sitting there taking forever to decide if they're going to get involved in the war or not. Meanwhile, like Helm's Deep is happening.
Oh yeah,
that's the Eternals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the bad guys in the Eternals, those were they the Deviants? Is that what they were called?
Yes.
So now
the ostensible bad guys,
right? Bad guys. I know.
Is it spoiler alert? Like the Celestials, the celestial beings, like they conjured them just to be able to keep evolution speeding along, so they can then continue to birth more Celestials, which then makes me kind of wonder then. Like, I wonder if at one point we're gonna see Galactus at some point. I mean, they're setting up Fantastic Four, and there's even now rumors that in the sequel to the Black Panther, that Doctor Doom might actually have some kind of involvement. Like, that's the newest rumor going on, which would be very interesting. I'd like to see where they're gonna go with that, but I digress, though. Please continue.
I was going to say that. So it wasn't. I read somewhere that Thanos is supposed to be a deviant. So why didn't the Eternals step in and help with him?
I know I brought that up before too. Like I think in the comics, at the very least, Thanos is a deviant.
I think the unofficial explanation is that that's just not part of the movie universe. Right. But it still begs the question. First of all, Thanos was not a planet Earth problem. He was a universe problem. And if their goal was to get the population big enough for the event to happen to birth the Celestial, Thanos snapping half the people away really hurt that.
The only explanation I can think of as to why they didn't go after Thanos is that they basically have a different morality as opposed to humanity. But even then, I think that's somewhat weak. Like, if you're trying to make sure that your species lives on, like having the snap happen seems like a very bad deal for your species.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, oh no, we helped them make atomic bombs. Oh, guy wants to wipe out half of them. Oh no, conquistadors massacring people. Oh, guy wants to wipe out half of all of them.
Yeah, it would have been interesting at least to see some, because they didn't interfere, but they, some grieving over it, I think would have been interesting, kind of tied it into the MCU as a whole would have been interesting. But here's what I have to say about, go ahead.
Or at least like someone tries to contact the Eternals and they get like an out of office email. Sorry, we are out of the office right now. We will return in a week. That's
kind of what happened. That is kind of what happened.
Yeah, basically.
So Star Fox. First of all, when I hear Star Fox, all I think about is the guy from the SNES and N64 game that I loved playing as a kid.
Do a barrel roll.
Do a barrel roll.
Do a barrel roll.
Yeah,
right.
Classic. People were really hyped up about this appearance of Eros, right? Eros at the end of the Eternals. First of all, Pip looks like a character from straight out of Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time that I would talk to get like some beans or something. And Eros, like, I didn't really do, like, it felt too much like it was winking at the audience. Like, why does a guy... So first of all, Thanos is like the biggest asshole in the universe, right? Like, people, I would imagine, unless you're like a sick person, which we saw, like, in Hawkeye, someone writes like, oh, Thanos was right. Most people are not going to like Thanos. So why would he show up and be introduced as the brother of Thanos? I would think that's the brother you don't talk about.
I mean, you tell people I'm your brother, so.
Well, you know, I realize that's worse, but still.
The only reason I can think of is that maybe somehow Eros and Star Fox just didn't get the memo.
Yeah,
I don't know how you can miss the memo of half the universe disappearing, but
After 5 years, too? Like,
yeah.
I've noticed interstellar traffic got a lot better for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, it might have been him just riding on the coattails too, because even before Thanos was gathering all the Infinity Stones, he's already like a powerful warlord across the galaxy, like amassing like as a huge armies and conquering various worlds. Like it might be it might be along the lines of I could ride on this success and whatnot. Because the thing is, like Star Fox and Pip the Troll are actually two very essential characters in the Marvel Comics story of the Infinity Gauntlet, which is like one of the most important like stories ever told, like in Marvel Comics. So seeing them like having an appearance here like is kind of like an interesting like wink and nod that it might be setting up something very unique or different, because like as we're seeing with Loki, Kang the Conqueror is already being poised to be the next major villain in the MCU. And with the splitting of various timelines and the introduction of multiverses, which we're going to see more in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, what I'm thinking is that there could be a possible storyline where maybe the new assembling Avengers are going to have to not only fight off Kang, but maybe like several other major occurrences that are going on. Like, for example, like some people might not have been fans of, say, the Thanos storyline that we got in like Endgame. But but in this case, what if it went a different way where we see another timeline split of Thanos, in which he's actually like doing it in order to win Death's affection, and then you start as I see Star Fox and Pip like fighting him off, with other Avengers like in tow, because like the one thing I absolutely loved in Loki was the fact that the Thanos copter exists. I totally nerdgasmed when I saw that. I'm like, the Thanos copter exists. It's canon. It's real. It like they actually had. I know. I love that. It's like it was only in one issue of Spider-Man, and yet there it is. It's real. That means that in one timeline, Thanos actually had something like that, or maybe just snapped it into existence to get away from the Avengers. And it's like, there you go. So I'm thinking like anything's kind of possible with like the next major like Avengers event. So like that's what I'm thinking. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that we're at a point now. 15 years ago, comic book movies still felt like they couldn't be too comic booky. They had to, aim for general audiences, and they couldn't have anything that was too out there or too, silly. And I think that for comic book fans, this is the best time to be alive, because you have these studios, including the Thanos copter and including the multiverse, and just going all out with it. That, I mean, look at the first X-Men movie. How much leather and 90s grunge can you fit in one movie?
What, would you prefer yellow spandex?
Actually, yeah.
Which, ironically enough, we got in X-Men First Class, so like they kind of re-embraced that when they, started to retell that story. So that was pretty cool.
How would you guys think if the X-Men made an appearance in the MCU proper?
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, it's just, I guess they're trying to, maybe they just, I mean, obviously Kevin Feige and his team, like, have a plan, because they've been this has been laid out for years, like, especially, and of course with the acquisition of Fox, like, they just had more, now they have like more, more characters to play with. It's just like they already still had plans from their prior storyline. It's just now, how do you properly insert that in, and how do you guide the course? And more or less, I guess in this case, like, do they want to still continue from the main like storyline that was done with the X-Men films, or are you going to like reintroduce everything? That's I guess like the major question that's on a lot of people's minds. And of course, how are you going to introduce it? I mean, because I mean, I'm thinking Wolverine's going to be the first one introduced at some point. I don't know where. It's just, but
Well,
it's
Wolverine's
coming.
everywhere. In my opinion, just because the X-Men have so many characters that you could run into like an Eternals problem. I think the way that they probably should introduce the X-Men is via uh, a series, like an 8-episode series. Because like, how many X-Men are there? There's a couple dozen of them, I think.
Like too many to count. You also
Exactly.
Marvel and Feige, they don't want to kind of give away everything all at once, so to speak. You don't
Right.
want your dessert to be too much or too sweet.
Yes.
And it's like, maybe do what you're doing now. Give them Star Fox and Pip, and then we'll maybe give them Fantastic Four. But there's no reason to give everyone everything all at once either.
Kevin Feige's like, I gotta look out for my great grandchildren. You know, I mean,
Exactly. He's got to leave some reveals for down the line, so they have content.
Here's what I think that talking about reintroducing the X-Men. They could. I mean, they've talked about kind of starting the story over, but I think what we saw from Spider-Man No Way Home is now with the multiverse idea, they don't have to retell the stories again. And I think that's partially why the Tom Holland Spider-Man works so well, because we already kind of knew his story. They didn't have to do the Uncle Ben thing again, even though they did in No Way Home, but in a slightly different way. But, you know, Kevin Feige was talking about, you know what, if we're going to have Doc Ock in a movie, you're not going to get better than Alfred Molina. If we're going to have Green Goblin in the movie, we're not going to get better than Willem Dafoe. So I think with that kind of mindset, and given how successful that movie's been, it's like the fourth highest grossing film of all time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's very possible we see Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen again, or even
they're getting up there though.
They are.
And I know you said with Doc Ock you're not going to get beat Alfred Molina. With X-Men though, we're definitely going to do better than Dark Phoenix, and that's where that saga left off.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
maybe we do want to start anew and not necessarily tell the same stories again, but just new X-Men.
Well, they might just cherry pick like certain things that worked and certain things that didn't. Like certain storylines will still continue. Like for example, the way they did Electro with Jamie Foxx. Like in this case, like they still kept his as a character. It's just a lot of complaints were from his original look, which basically he looked like an electrified version of Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin. I mean, but I can't.
No one puts me in the cooler.
But in this case, though, like then in reintroducing him, they gave him like the more traditional suit, and it was really cool, especially with the electrified headpiece that he had, which was like similar to the comics, in which everyone got what they wanted. And the redesign, and he actually looks so much cooler, and actually becomes even like a bigger threat, like in No Way Home, which I absolutely love that film. Like that, I mean, talk about a movie that like honors its past, brings in like a lot of like the wonderful like fan service that like that Spider-Man fans and Marvel fans absolutely love. Just how like respectful they were of reintroducing like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield after like so long, and it was just incredible to see like all of them like coming together like to fight off like an even larger threat, and just having all the legacy characters like coming back, and everyone it's like slipping into a pair of like old shoes that you loved wearing when you were younger, and they still feel just as well as it did, and that's what No Way Home felt for me. So it was a major like respect to the fans, and a major respect to like everyone involved, and that's why it did so well. Like that's why it's well over $1 billion, and I really hope that like Kevin Feige sees this and like continues to honor those traditions and honor those things moving forward. Like, I mean, it's important to introduce new characters, but we also have to remember too that, I mean, like the first X-Men as a film like came out in 2001, and like a lot of us grew up with it, and like we're older now, and we still want to, we're still going out to see these movies. So it's important to still honor the older fans while also helping to usher in like bring in newer ones too. So I hope that continues.
I think it will, and I think that the response to No Way Home is a big game changer because,
Yes.
so, to Dave's point, Dark Phoenix is where we last left the X-Men, or I guess technically New Mutants, but that's a whole other thing.
We don't talk about
We
New
don't talk.
Mutants.
I like New Mutants,
and neither does Fox.
I like New Mutants. Anyway,
I was gonna say we don't talk about it so much that I completely forgot about it.
Right. I mean, I saw it myself. I didn't think it was bad. It's just a shame. I mean, it wasn't really like anything to write home about. Plus, it was a shame too because a little bit spoilers here. They once again revealed like the Essex Corporation, and I'm like, oh, and then it just reminds me, oh, I was like, oh my goodness, we could have had the Gambit movie, and we were going to have like Mr. Sinister. Why did they can that? Why did they axe it? It's like, come on.
As someone who grew up on the X-Men cartoon in the 90s, I will never forgive Fox for not giving us Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, he was
and
an
giving
awesome
us
villain.
Phoenix twice.
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's a shame because the animated series like had like the best portrayal of of the Dark Phoenix saga. In all honesty, it really did, and they've never
and a
been
more
able to
threatening
replicate it.
apocalypse.
Yeah, that's true too.
So here's what I'll say
Yeah.
to that is that, we left off with Dark Phoenix, New Mutants. Spider-Man No Way Home found a way to redeem the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man movies, which for a long time people complain like, or especially like the second one, like, oh, that was like the least favorite one. But they found a way to work it in and redeem it. So again, I would not be surprised. Yeah, I know Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart are getting up there, but as you still have the nostalgia factor, even with the younger X-Men cast, because people don't really talk about Dark Phoenix, but they'll still talk about First Class as, oh, that was just a really great flick, one of the best X-Men films. I would not be surprised if they reintroduce, if they bring them back and don't do like another origin movie. The only one I think that you might have trouble with is Wolverine, because I think Hugh Jackman, I think he's probably done. But you never know.
That was the whole point of Logan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was the perfect finale, and
Yes.
yeah, I could see them, doing a wink and a nod with Stewart and McKellen. I mean, honestly, I would watch a 2-hour movie of just them playing chess and like nothing else happens, but like we watch them play chess and they have a conversation for 2 hours. I'd watch that. That's how interesting the two of them are on screen.
Like they can have their own movies, but then like say like have I don't know, Cyclops just pop in and help out Captain America or whatever.
Or you could just throw in Stewart and McKellen and have them both play characters named Boner.
Boner.
That too, yeah.
You know what? I ever tell you guys that I ticked off somebody that works on WandaVision because I complained about that and he defriended me on Facebook.
That's the sign of a true toxic fan, getting into fights with the creators on the internet.
He's not the creator of the show. No, I complained
But
about
someone who worked on it.
Yeah, I complained about the Ralph Boner thing, and I said it was exactly like the Mandalorian in Iron Man 3. Now, I think he said to me, he's like, that's not
Did
what it was.
you just say the Mandalorian in Iron Man 3?
Mandalorian. Oh my gosh, Mandarin.
Oh, the Mandarin. Oh,
That
yeah.
would have
I
been
was
a
just
better
gonna-
twist.
was like-
That would have been a cooler movie.
I'm turning in my nerd card.
I was just gonna say, is like this is the way? Question mark.
Right, that's a brain fart.
This is the way, period.
Yes.
No, but I said like this is exactly like the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, and he's like, it's nothing like that at all. And then it got ugly from there. But the thing is that I think he might have been right, because I feel like that is Quicksilver. I feel like maybe there was some theories at the time with WandaVision that he was the what do you call it? Identity protect. What do they call that when they give you a new name and identity?
Witness protection.
Witness security.
Witness protection program.
Witness security is the official term for it now.
Well, you know what I mean. But
It's run by the sheriff's department.
Because Agatha says that, in order they were trying to get a Pietro, but the Pietro that they knew was dead, so she had to look elsewhere. So I think she pulled Quicksilver out of the X-Men universe, and I think we're going to get that confirmed that maybe he didn't realize, like maybe he was under a spell, which we know he was, but maybe he actually is from the X-Men universe, and that seems a lot more plausible now than it did a year ago when it came out.
Yeah.
But then they can't be upset for people not being satisfied with that if it's, hold on, we're going to reveal it much, much later. Because then, could you not make the argument, oh, they realized everyone got pissed off about that, so they're retconning it to make it better. You know, like when they said that the little kid in Iron Man 2 was little Peter Parker as a response to a fan theory. So I don't know that I would trust them, Marvel and Feige, to say that that was their plan from the start.
Right. I mean,
frankly, it's a boner move.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a careful balancing act. It's like, you know, you have your original ideas, but at the same time, though, you also want to make sure that, you know, fans are happy, satisfied, but at the same time, and also to just, you know, continue to give, like, you know, good positive engagement, which is always important.
Sometimes creators can change things in their ongoing series depending on how fans react to them. Like, I've made it no secret of my love of the Wheel of Time series, and there was one theory that started around book 6, and pretty much everyone guessed the theory immediately. So after book 6 was released and Robert Jordan saw the reactions, he basically immediately changed it so that now admittedly, like the end result was still really good. It just so happens that everyone guessed the original plot thing going forward.
Supposedly that's what happened with Darth Jar Jar, that whole theory.
Yeah, and then Lucas like rescinded on that because, you know,
because of the reaction.
Jar Jar was like his daughter's, like, you know, idea, and he didn't want to disappoint her by making him into a villain, so he backtracked on that, which is understandable. I mean, it would have made more sense, but at the same time, though, you know, in this case, like, he put his family above that, and, you know, like, put his heart into that. So I can respect that. I wasn't really a fan of Jar Jar. I didn't hate the character, but I can understand why people didn't like him. But yeah, it's just, he is what he is. I mean, that's just the way I look at him. You know, he was built as a comic relief character in the end, so that's the way I look at him.
So I thought of an interesting point talking about fan theories. How do you guys feel about creators basically kind of making fan theories canon? Which, you know,
I think it depends on the context.
We've seen. Is that a slippery slope, do you think, or have you seen, like, you know, are there more benefits than negatives?
If you do it too much, then you can affect the story both going forward and how you view it in the past, and yeah.
Like, for example, like with the new Moon Knight series that's coming out later, which, I mean, it's looking really solid. I saw the trailer for that. It looks
cannot
really
wait
cool.
for that.
Yeah. So for that, like, from what I've been reading up, like, the character of Moonlight, because of his, like, multi-schizophrenic personality, they didn't want him to necessarily, like, be like a carbon copy of Deadpool, because with Deadpool, like, you know, he already has that. So instead of it being like a more, like, funnier, like, comedic aspect, which is, you know, at times portrayed in the Moon Knight comics, they're taking a bit more of a, you know, of a more quote unquote serious look, but still having it, you know, be that, you know, like, he's just figuring out, like, you know, oh, where am I? What's going on here? Hey, wait, why am I in Egypt? Like, you know, that kind of thing, where it's like, it's more paranoia. Like, I was actually getting, like, Split vibes from that, if that makes any sense, which would make sense. So, like, they're kind of like, you know, we're going to still keep the fans pleased with Deadpool, and eventually, I hope they reintroduce him again, because I know Ryan Reynolds himself, like, he's spending time with his family, which I, you know, completely understand. But when he's ready to come back, and when they're ready to bring Deadpool back proper into the MCU, which, I mean, I think Feige is fully on board with that. You know, it's, of course, making sure that, one, it makes sense. Two, how do we do it properly? And three, this is, once again, fan theory. It's like, you know, fans love Deadpool, you know, even though Deadpool is more of an R-rated character. But I guess with the way they're going to have Blade, like come in, that might be like them finally opening up to the idea of, hey, let's actually, like, do an R-rated movie. Let's try that out, see if it works. Because, you know, Deadpool, it would work regardless. But
I'd
then they
love
have
to
that
see
side.
them do that,
Yeah,
especially with a horror-esque one like that.
yeah,
Because they're not doing it with Multiverse of Madness or even Morbius.
right.
That's Sony,
Is that-
but
Yeah, because I think mainly because they've already established Doctor Strange as like in that PG-13 range, which I understand. But with Blade, completely new character, plus also like I mean, his story's dark. Like I mean, I remember watching the original Blade with Wesley Snipes. That movie was phenomenal. My goodness, he was just like slaying vampires, like 6 ways to Sunday, and looking cool while doing it. So you got.
I'm tired of chopping you up, and then he sets the dude on fire.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
As a complete side note, I know this is utterly ridiculous, but I would love to have a scene of Deadpool interacting with Lewis from Ant-Man, and Lewis is just doing his storytelling thing to Deadpool, and Deadpool's reacting to it.
Yeah,
that
would be a cool
I
idea.
would love a comedy show on Disney Plus with all of those characters that we love, like Lewis and the producer from the Eternals and whoever else. I know there's a whole bunch of them some of the side characters I think have been very entertaining.
Are you kidding? The producer and the Eternals could probably get a lot of ideas off of Lewis.
What about a TV show where the producer from the Eternals is producing a TV show in universe based on the superheroes, and Lewis is his creative consultant because he claims that he's friends with Ant-Man.
Oh my
That
gosh.
would be cool. That would be a clever idea.
That's
I
a
like
brilliant idea. Kevin Feige's going to steal that from you, man. That's a really good idea.
That's the free idea, Kevin Feige. When you watch this, just cite me, credit me with the idea.
And they kind of did that a little bit with which in the Hawkeye show. I mean, we had an Avengers musical, which was phenomenal.
I could
thought
do
that was
this
good.
all day.
I think that would be. I mean, we see that popular culture exists in the MCU based on the events that have happened. So I don't know, dude. Honestly, I think you should tweet that out to Kevin Feige and just see. I think that could go viral, man. That tweet. You never know.
Yeah, that is a cool idea.
And
Yeah,
and to
definitely
your
add
point
him.
with the creators canonizing fan theories, I just might get lucky.
You never know.